Welcome to the Be Better broadcast, where we come at you to bring you strategies and tips and techniques that are going to help you to live an extraordinary life and achieve self-mastery in your life, both personally and professionally. And today we're going to touch on something really special because we have someone really special here today. It's a friend who I was introduced to recently through a few more mutual friends, a few who I think have actually been on the podcast. We're going to be talking to someone who has lived quite a successful and interesting career full of twists and turns and ups and downs and transition that he could have never anticipated. And we're going to share some of the lessons that our guest has learned throughout this career. Our guest today, his name is Francisco Llul, and he has gone from intrapreneur to entrepreneur to instructor at university, all the way back again, going from the beginning all the way to the end, as well as where he is now. And I know that you're going to take away a lot from this conversation because Francisco has experienced so much in his life, so many different roles, opportunities, challenges. And really, throughout this conversation, there's going to be a lot of lessons and principles that you can take away to apply to your career, that you can apply to your personal life, that you can apply to your business, whether you own your own business or you work inside of a business right now. I'm really excited to talk to Francisco. And all that I ask of you is when you hear a lesson or a principle or anything that makes you think in a different way, gives you a different perspective, share this show with just one friend who could also use that unique perspective, strategy, or technique. There's no ads, no price of admission to be here on this stream, or if you're watching it afterwards, just share this with one friend who could use this advice. So without further ado, let's talk to our friend Francisco Llul. And for those who don't know Francisco, he is a senior executive with extensive commercial experience in technology, marketing, and general administration in both domestic and multinational companies throughout Latin America. This guy is global. He's had no choice but to become an expert in sales strategy, business development, and to form an unhealthy obsession with customer experience, which we're going to talk about here today. He has been labeled as an inspirational, innovative leader with a talent for forming close bonds with his clients, and these strong interpersonal relationships enable him to develop strong coaching and negotiation skills that empower him to bring a strategic vision to life. Francisco, it's a pleasure to have you here, my friend.
Pleasure for me too. Thanks a lot for inviting me to your podcast. It is a wonderful opportunity to share with you my experience and my learnings along this journey. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to share that.
The pleasure is mine, and it's great to have you here all the way from Chile, too, all the way from over in South America, guys. We're going global here with the Be Better broadcast. And Francisco, let's start at the very beginning, okay? Let me ask you this. If I had known you in high school, before you knew all the twists and turns your career would take you and all the success it would lead you to, who was Francisco in high school?
In high school, wow. I was a very energetic and service guy, helping all my classmates achieving their goals, participating in many activities. I was a Boy Scout at the time of the school. I played basketball. I did a lot of activities. I participated a lot with my classmates and all the activities at the school. And I always had a lot of interest. I was very curious and always felt this inner thing that it is very important to have good relationship with others and help others to achieve things.
Yeah, no, I can just based on your journey here, which I have, but everyone else is going to experience throughout this conversation. A lot of what you talk about is solving problems for other people, helping other people, and just making life better for others. Where do you think this service mindset that you have since this very young age. Where would you say that comes from? Does it come from Boy Scouts, or did you bring it into Boy Scouts? Like, where does that mindset come from for you?
Wow, it's a wonderful question. I think it all came came from my family. I always see my mother helping other people, and when I went to school, I went to a school that idea of the world was the same. So all the environment helped me to nurture and growth that helping spirit.
Nice. Yeah, it goes back to the whole concept of nature versus nurture, right? How much of it were you born with? How much of it was from the environment that you were in? And family's huge. I mean, we are the people that we spend the most time around. So and the fact that you spent around time around people who were also wanting to help others and serve others, it makes a lot of sense why that would have been instilled in you as well. So when you were in high school, did you know what you wanted to do? Like, did you have a game plan? Like, I just read a news story of a girl who's 12 years old who's like, I will be like a NASA astronaut and I will go to these places. And like, she's got everything figured out, right? And it makes me think I didn't have everything figured out. So did you have it all figured out? And what was it for you?
No,
Like, what did the journey look like after high school for you?
that's very funny because in my family we are three brothers, and I'm the older one, and my second brother from very early he had in his mind to be an engineer, and he followed that path, and he went to the university to be an engineer, and now he is and work as an engineer. Different like me, I didn't know at the school what I will do in my future. The only thing I know that I like the arts, I like the biology, I like it, work or make relationships with others. So that's what I had clear, but I don't have clear what I will do, what profession I will follow after that.
Was it difficult for you to decide to go to school for architecture? Like, was architecture always something that you had your mind set on? Because I know that eventually you went from architecture to agricultural business, which is, in my mind, it's very different than that. So from your perspective, it might be similar. There might be things that are shared there, but how did you decide on architecture, and what did that transition look like from that to the business of agriculture?
Good question. I decided that architecture because when I did my testing for university here in Chile, the testing is only one, and you for all, only one for all, and you apply to the different universities with that exam, with that test. And when I did my test, I saw that I had a good, sorry, puntaje, good grade
Yes.
for applying to architecture. And I did the special test, the artistic test for the architecture, and I was accepted for study
Yes.
that. I love it. Wonderful assignments, wonderful matters, all wonderful. But I failed in three assignments, in three matters. So I take a moment. I start to think about, and I think to myself, oh, I will not uh, doing well. Maybe I will pass the signatures again after that, but I think I need a change.
Mm.
That's in that moment I start to think about what things I I was good at the high school.
Mm.
And biology was one of that. And the other one is I love it, economy, the signature economy, and mix that and say maybe I could have a good performance studying uh, agriculture business. And other thing, at that time my country was developing a agriculture industry very strong, very good, with a lot of technology advances and things like that. I think there are opportunities, business opportunities, working opportunities. So I will study this area. So that was I did, and I did it successfully. I was a very good student of that in that career.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things you said there that are so important. So you went for architecture. You decided at a certain point in this journey, because everyone listening, like, you're going to go to school for something and you might not necessarily enjoy it, or you might be going into it and you say, I've learned a lot in this field. I've learned more than I expected to. And now I realize that it's time for a change. Now I realize that I want to do something else. And I think it's important that when you have that gut feeling like you did, Francisco, that you want something else in your life, follow that gut feeling, right? Life is too short. As you'll tell from this conversation we're about to have, Francisco's done so many different things in his life that have led him to where he is right now on this broadcast with us today, talking to us. And I love how you started asking yourself the questions: what are my strengths? What am I good at? And you asked yourself, even, what was I good at in high school? And the answer for you was, well, I liked biology and I loved economics. And you took those things and you combined them and you asked yourself, well, if I combine these, what can I use them for? Which led you to the studying of business and agriculture, right? The thing is, like, you don't necessarily know all of the different opportunities that are out there for you right now. But once you start asking yourself questions, those opportunities will appear. So, Francisco, I know that you started working for a supermarket chain, but then you left that to pursue opportunities in your field of study. You've talked about sacrifice, right? What did you have to sacrifice in order to leave this job where you probably had a steady, secure income in order to pursue your field of study? What did that part of your journey look like for you?
Wow, it is. Wow, you need some. You need to work with your gut feelings, your inner feelings. When you discover there are opportunities in the market, and mix that with your abilities. And it is important to make some brave decisions at certain points of your life to sacrifice yourself in uh, looking for develop all your gifts, your abilities, your I don't remember the name and the word in English, but your
Like your superpowers.
yeah, maybe like maybe that is the right word. I think it is you need you need to have an objective. You need to understand very well your context
Mm.
and know yourself. I think those are the three most important elements to take that kind of decisions.
Yeah. So know your objective, know yourself. I think the Japanese, I'm sorry if I completely butcher this, those who are listening, but I think the Japanese have a word called otaku, which is something that you are obsessed with. Like, it's like for me, I love playing guitar, right? I'm not obsessed with guitar, otherwise I'd probably be a rock star or be a professional guitarist. But uh, I like it, but I'm not obsessed with it, right? So what is that thing that you have, to those who are listening, that you're obsessed with doing, right? Like, for you, Francisco, that might have been helping other people, right? There's a common theme throughout all the things that you've done, which is providing value to other people. And I like how you said, know the opportunities right now in the marketplace. Know the areas that you can fill with your unique abilities, with your superpower, with your otaku. And it's interesting to me how you had these insights so early on in your life. But there's one thing specifically about you that I picked up on, and it's you've never called, even when you've worked inside of a business, you've never called it just like a job. I had a job, I was an employee. You've always referenced it as intrapreneurship. And that might be a new phrase for some people. So why do you reference it as entrepreneurship? What's the difference in that mindset versus just simply being an employee?
It is. I think when you land in a job and you think it is only a job, you don't do your best. You don't give eh, your abilities, your knowledge to improve things, to improve the life of others. It is very important in all jobs, all in all companies. There are opportunities to improve things, but for discovering that, you need to understand the pains and the needs of the other people, the people that is using or could use the solutions that company deliver, bring to the world. I think when you have that in mind, you find what can be improved, and you find uh, that improvements will be a wonderful thing for the people that use and buy to that companies.
Now, when you say you need to know what the other people are looking for, who is the other people? Is that the customer? Is it your leadership? Is it the business? Is it your market? Like, what does that mean to you?
What a wonderful question. I'm convinced all people. You
All
know,
people.
you not only serve final customers, you serve your peers, you serve your bosses, your leaders in the company, and the people that works for you inside the company too. All people,
Mm.
not only. It is a 360 vision. All people that is around.
You know, it's going to sound like a silly question to ask this, but I think it's an important question at the same time, because I've worked in many companies. And if you look at the difference now between the people who are happiest even with what they do, if you look at the people who are the highest performers in what they do, it's always as if they have like a next step in mind. It's like they have an objective in mind. But then the other people on the flip side of that, they're not quite sure of what they want. They're not sure of the next step. They don't have this service mindset. So how can you know what your leadership or business or company or the team under you or your customers, how can you make that transition, Francisco, from a me mindset to a service mindset?
Wow. Uh, I think it is constantly asking questions, constantly trying to understand what is in the mind of the other people. No, it is not what you think about, is what you ask them.
Mm.
Ask conversations, understand what moves them, what are their thoughts. It is very important to uh, have relevant conversations with people.
So if I was working with you and you were on my team of people, right? What could I expect in a day in the life of working with Francisco? What kind of attitudes do you exhibit? Are you a humorous guy, laughing, having a good time? Are you more serious? Are you the curious guy asking a lot of questions? Like, what would it be like to work with you while you inhabit this type of mindset?
I'm trying to remember what my peers, colleagues said about me,
Yeah.
and I think it is that I'm very focused on objectives, on results, but at the same time, I'm very focused on people,
Mm,
and that means that I always try to have a very entertaining environment, sometimes with laugh, sometimes asking people about their feelings. And when someone is a little bit sad, have a more serious conversation, not in a laughing way. It is hearing them and try to giving support them in their moods, and try to contact them, drive them to a more energetic feeling and happiness, showing happiness, including in, but being serious when you need to be serious too. It is a very dynamic way to work.
yeah, it sounds like you're a chameleon to your environment. It does. It sounds like you are able to adjust based on the people that you're around. And I think that that's really important. And I don't mean if you're around four jokesters, you just turn into the fifth jokester. I mean, if you're around four jokesters, maybe adjust to them, right? Have a good time with them, engage in their jokes, but maybe be the one who is objective minded at the same time, helping to
Absolutely.
lead those four jokesters in the right direction. But if you're around completely all serious people, then maybe you can adjust to them, but still lead them in the direction that's best for everybody. What you described empathy, you described caring for other people, you described results. You just described really what it means to be a leader. Would I be right in saying that?
Wow, I think you're right. I think I never thought about that, but I think that all I do in my life is to help people, and I think it is part of leadership. Leadership is not being a boss. It's not being a guy that asks things and you must work for him. A leader is one is with you and is helping you to pull the the job and do things right.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know that you can be the leader at any point in what you do, whether you work for minimum wage at McDonald's or whether you are a business executive for a multinational corporation. You can be a leader anywhere, right? And it sounds like really what we're talking about here is lessons in leadership, right? How to be a strong leader, how to serve others. One thing about you that really stuck out to me was the idea of solving other people's problems. Like if you want to be a leader, solve problems for your leadership, solve problems for your team. But you talk a lot about the customer experience. And I think in this culture, Francisco, or let me maybe explain what it's like in the American culture. Like we have names here for people who like ask to speak to the manager, right? We call them a Karen, right? Oh, it's just Karen looking to speak to the manager, giving us a hard time. There's like this idea in American culture right now, not with everybody, but it's an idea that everyone has heard or has seen, where it's like the customer is like a pest, right? And it's like we're out for ourselves. Like it's very interesting. It really is very interesting. And my question to you is this idea of customer experience, why is it truly so important to focus on the customer or the client's journey?
Oh, I think it is one of the most important things because when you correctly serve the customer, you you have something something back. When a customer is happy with your service, you create a long-term relationship, and that long-term relationship, it is infectious. That customer talks about that good service and the good solutions you are giving them, and other people go there. And all companies depends on their customers.
Mm.
So I think the most successful companies are those that serve their customers and stay longer in the market, because customers, uh, uh, sorry, premium, it's Spanish kind, give a price to that company, buying their solutions again and again. It is very, very important.
Yeah, it's that law of reciprocity. What you
And
give,
that's
you'll get back, right?
absolutely,
And it might not seem that way at first. Like you might be dealing even with an angry or an irate customer, especially in sales, as you know, right? You're going to be dealing with a lot of different personalities. And it might even seem like a fight at times, like, oh, I have to win in this situation. But, and listen, I've been there, right? But I found that if you can help the other person win, it will always come back to you, whether it's in a sale or just goodwill, or I even believe that you might not even see something come back to you for a certain amount of time, but then something good will happen to you, and you're able to say, oh, this good thing probably happened because I did this the other
yeah,
day.
yeah,
It's just that idea of do good and you'll get good that comes back to you. Now
absolutely,
you moved from studying in your field to becoming a sales administrator. So you moved into the world of sales.
yeah.
Now, when you made that transition into sales, what were some of the most, what was like one of the most important lessons that you learned that helped you to be a successful salesperson in general?
Again, I come back to service others. When you
Mm.
service correctly, when you serve with your heart, you can make good sales. You can improve processes, and you can make the life of others easier. At that time, when I work as a sales administrator, at that time we do all the paperwork by hand, and it is very long. It took long times to do all things. Then I developed a automatic system with at that time Lotus 123, the modern the older Excel
Mm.
spreadsheet,
Mhm.
and I automated the process, and the life for me and for the people in the accountants, the company. It, their life was very easy with that. So the most important lesson I learned in sales is serving others pays back.
Yeah. Serve with your heart. I
Yeah,
love that.
absolutely.
I love that. I think that could even be the title for this conversation is how to serve with your heart and what that will get you, right? And it's not even what it will get you, but how it makes you feel going throughout your own life as a human being, not even just a salesperson.
Absolutely.
There's so many other twists and turns we could talk about in your journey, like when you went from being a sales administrator to being a lecturer at a university, and that's so interesting in itself, and I'm sure you face many challenges with that. But one thing I want to ask you is, at what point did you transition from working for others to now working for yourself as an entrepreneur? What did that look like? And what did you learn from working for yourself now versus working with others?
Oh, working for yourself is a lot harder because you assume all the risks.
Mm,
You, especially at the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey, you need to do all things. You need to buy things. You need to sell things. You need to do the accountancy. You need to all do all the roles inside the company when you are, especially when you are starting. But that again, when you're working for yourself, you're not only working for yourself, you're working for others. You're
mm,
solving problems for others. If you're not doing that, your company, your business will not last.
yeah. What would you say was the biggest lesson that you had to learn when you moved from working with others to working for yourself as an entrepreneur? Because I know you became an entrepreneur and then you went back to being a quote unquote employee. And then you went back to now being an entrepreneur again. So, what was it that made your journey? What advice would you have? I should ask you this. What advice would you have for maybe even a new entrepreneur or an entrepreneur who might be going through some struggles right now at the beginning of their business or the middle, whatever it might be, to help them along the ride with something that you've learned through your experience?
Um, the most important thing I learned is to correctly read the context. Sometimes the context it is in good conditions to start a business in some area, in some area,
Yeah.
and sometimes the context change in a very unexpected way, and sometimes you need to settle down and start to think about the new conditions, and you look into yourself and say, at this moment, it is good to continue with entrepreneurship,
Mm.
or it's good to be in the market for and work for a company again. It all depends on the context and the time of your life, and where you can be an asset, where you can give yourself to do better things and achieve better things.
Was that difficult for you in the sense of when you first went from being an entrepreneur, working for yourself, being the boss, being the person responsible for it all? Was it difficult for you to make that decision to go back and work for a company? Like, how did you have any of that ego that got in the way? Like, what were the emotions like? What did that look like for you during that first transition from entrepreneur back to employee?
A lot of humble, it is needed. You need to put your ego apart, and take the decisions with the gut and with the mind, with
Mm,
both at the same time. And one of the hardest things I must face when I did that transition was to remember that I was not the the high head, the the total boss, and start again that I was part of a bigger machine.
yeah.
That was difficult in the first months of that transition, but you can do it. You need to think. You need to um, adequate your knowledge, your feelings to the new situation. Human beings are good at that. This is the reason why we are evolving. We are uh, advancing
Yeah.
in the human history.
And I think that you're evolving and advancing after each of these different opportunities. Like you, after working at the supermarket, had different skills than the Francisco before you worked there. You, after having taught at university, possessed very different skills than before you worked there that you bring into the entrepreneurial journey, that you then bring back to the company landscape. Like you, at every different part of your life, is a more advanced and a more skilled version of yourself and a different version of yourself. Where at one point, entrepreneurship might have made sense, but at a different point, now it makes more sense to use those unique skills and talents to add value to a company again inside of an
Absolutely.
already existing machine. So I like how you say it depends on the context of the moment, right? Does it make more sense now to build my own business? Or does it make more sense to serve others in the form of working inside an already existing structure? Are you a big fan of the idea that, like, I read a quote recently. It was actually a video from, I think it was some, one of the several billionaires out there who say, when you're in your 20s and 30s, you should work for a boss, you should work for a company and learn from that experience before you go off to work with yourself. I'm sure you see we are in a world of Instagram millionaires, teenage millionaires who have the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris, and they're 18 and they had crypto and they do all these things and they're doing very well, flashy, right? For social media. Do you believe that there is value for first working for a company before going off for yourself? Or do you believe it really just is different for every person?
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe that you need to develop maturity, and to achieve that maturity, it is important to work for others, to
Mm,
understand things, to understand the view of others about business, about the world, and understand how a business works from inside. When you start without that experience, without that knowledge, it is very probable you fail sooner than later. And when you follow that path, it is very probable you don't have enough temperament to affront failures.
mm,
Failures are an important part of the journey, maybe the most important part, because in failures there is learning. And when you start working for other company, most of the times the failures are part of that learning, are that is.
I love that. Failures are an important part of the journey, and it gives you the opportunity to learn for being in an already existing system. And I think it's important too to say that at one point you left what you were doing to pursue a career in your field of study. And I think it's important to say that if you can find a placement or a company that allows you to practice your skills, that allows you to learn while you're inside of this existing system, that could either one, prepare you to go off on your own and open your own business, or two, you can continue to rise up in that company, maybe go to a different one, go to an executive level, but really it sounds like the name of the game is just make progress in whatever direction it happens to lead you at that point in your life.
Absolutely. And that progress, you can progress when you find improvement opportunities. When you don't have that in mind, you will stay where you are. And when you stay where you are, it is probably you don't stay longer there. Also,
Tony Robbins says if you're not growing, you're dying,
yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
You've got to find those areas of opportunity inside of
Yeah.
the business. A lot of people in the workforce, and it might be someone listening, you might not have a next step. And you ask people all the time, like, what's next for you? What are you working towards? And it's a very foreign question for a lot of people. They're like, well, I'm not quite sure. It's why I ask everyone, because I'm curious. I'm like you, I'm a curious person. Like, what's your vision? Like, where do you want to see yourself a year from now, 2 years, 3 years? And it's the people who know that are generally the people who are going to get to where they want to go. The ones who don't, it's okay if you don't know, but to work towards figuring out what you might want your life to look like, to figure out maybe what that next step could look for you. I mean, let me ask you this, Francisco. If I had asked you when you were 30 years old where you would be at this point in your life, would you have been able to say that you'd be where you are right now when you were 30 years old?
Oh, really? No, no. It is. It is. You can plan your life for 5, 10, 20 years, but life conducts you in very mysterious ways. You don't know where you will be. I think that this is the reason why many people says that it doesn't matter where you want to go. It is more important the journey to that point. It is, and how you manage that journey, and how you manage the difficulties, the roadblocks, how you manage that. It is more important than the goal itself.
Wow. There's so many just insights that you're dropping here that are absolutely incredible. Very inspiring, very inspiring. So let me ask you this now. What is it that you do now, Francisco? And what's next for you now at this chapter in your life?
Well, very interesting. Now I'm committed to develop some. I'm doing some market development for some solutions, tech solutions for websites or other technologies too. I'm offering that solutions in Latin America. I'm building a business around that. And what I want to do in the future is to continue serving other people, companies, and solving problems for them. I love to do things with meaning for others. That's my idea for the future.
I love that. I was going to ask you, and maybe I still will because it might be a little different than the answer you just gave me. My final question for you is, what is the change, the positive impact that you want to make on the world at this chapter in your life?
The impact I want to make a better life for other people, for my family, for my customers, and for all people that is around me. I want to be an example of how to make a better life for others.
That's incredible. I think that's the common theme of everything that we discussed today too. Where is it that people can follow you? Is there a social media platform that you hang out on most? Where can we connect with you, Francisco?
I'm the platform I most use is LinkedIn. So
Okay.
you can find me easily in LinkedIn.
Okay. Sounds great. I'm going to include the link in the description to go follow and connect with Francisco on LinkedIn so that you can continue the conversation there. Francisco, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you this morning. Thanks for sharing your journey and your lessons along the way with us. Thank you so
Th-
much.
Thanks a lot, Brandon. Bye bye.
This was a conversation with Francisco Llul, all the way from Chile, who joined us for a conversation this morning on how to create an extraordinary career, but not just how to create an extraordinary career, how to create an extraordinary life, serving others, doing good for others, solving big problems, using your own interests, using your own skills, using your own beliefs in order to serve others. We had a lot of awesome engagement. Jim Kunkel, it's a pleasure to have you here. You've been with us the whole time. Jake Marchand, you've been with us the whole time. It's been a pleasure having you here. You can connect with Francisco at the link in the description to go check out his LinkedIn, connect with him, follow him. He's doing incredible things in the world, specifically the Latin American market right now, but he's impacting markets globally. And I can't even imagine seeing what he's going to achieve in these next chapters of his life with all that he knows, all his experiences. But really, the big takeaway here is take the lessons from this episode and use them in your own life. Use them in your own career to create a better and more extraordinary life for yourself. If you found value from this conversation, share this show with one person who could use these insights. And thank you for watching. And as always, until we talk again next time, continue to be better.